Hello, this is my continuation of videos for my research that I have done over the last couple of years on vertical sleeve gastrectomy surgery, VSG. So I'm going to be going on a VSG trip. To recap, I would really appreciate, and I think that you guys would get a good feeling, a good basis of background on me if you'll watch these first two videos, and then this one. I'll number them 1, 2, 3, and I'll also provide some links and stuff maybe underneath the videos and stuff, so you can refer to some of the things that I've referred to. I have researched, like I said, for the last couple of years. I've got some notes over here just to let you know. I'm going to refer to them so you'll know what I'm looking at. I'm 40. Well, I'll be 42 years old next month. I'm 5'8". I weigh 213 pounds. I fluctuate between 211, 213 and a half, somewhere there. Today I weighed, it was 213.4. And so I'm in the BMI range of 32 and a half, which is considered low end obesity. I call that dangerous obesity. Mediocre or moderate is very dangerous, and then you have high, which is going to be critical obesity. I have comorbidities of stress incontinence. I'm pre-diabetic. I have bulging disc issues in my back. I have knees. I've had a couple of knee surgeries on one knee. I have I don't know if these are comorbidities, but I've been told that my chub contributed to my vitamin D deficiency tendencies that I had. I went over that in one of the previous videos. So your fat tends to trap the vitamin D, and when you get exposed to the sun, your body produces the D. And when it produces the D, if you have chub, it will get trapped in the chub and you won't ever get it in your blood. That's what happened to me. And I ended up on a high dose vitamin D regimen. So I have that, and I also have a low testosterone that I'm having treated. The doctor said you should be at 150, and I was at 10. I covered that in the previous video. So I don't know if those are comorbidities necessarily. I've read a whole lot about comorbs, and I know what the basic ones are. I don't have high cholesterol or high blood pressure. So I'm with the pre-diabetes. That's the one that really got my attention. That was the one where I said, oh crap, that's not good. So 2 years ago, I was doing the research, and just when I was told I was pre-diabetic and that if I didn't lose the weight I was going to be diabetic, I have kept I've monitored that, and I'm still not diabetic. I'm still pre-diabetic. So it's directly correlated to my weight, and so I see that I'm going to be dealing with it no matter what. I can get the weight down, but then it's going to come back up and not be dealing with it. So, okay, my research though, I want to get into these. The internet and YouTube both are what I have used for my research. I'm going to mention some specific doctor names on here that I have appointments with to go see, some that I have just researched online and studied quite a bit. And I mean, we're talking 2 years, guys. Not every day, but I mean, I have gotten in here on a regular basis when I have time, when I don't have a lot going on, either with work or with family stuff going on. It's literally become one of my pastimes to research these bariatric surgeries. Lap band was a consideration of mine for a long time. I wanted that one just simply because it seemed like the simplest one. It seemed like the one that made the most sense for my lower end BMI, my lower end obesity. However, just my gut was telling me, don't do that. Just don't do that yet. You need more information. And over the course of the last 2 years, I've watched very closely the lap band and the VSG, and I've seen that there's a lot of surgeons out there that are still doing lap band, but there's a lot of surgeons out there that have either stopped doing them, or their practice has become primarily for revising that lap band into something else, because the lap band just really has been a problem for a lot of people. There's a high percentage in the statistics of people that have had problems. There's a whole bunch of people that don't have problems that really have benefited from that lap band. And I mean, I am so happy for those people. I think that is absolutely fantastic. They did those procedures because they were intervening. They were losing battles, and they don't want to lose the war. And there's a whole lot of people with a bunch of success with that lap band. A whole bunch. I personally, the number one thing, not even the complications with it really scared me that much. The thing that made me the most nervous about band for me was that I have this hunger issue that I talked about in the previous video. I have this ghrelin. I think I have double ghrelin or something. You know, it's like, no wonder my stomach's always growling. It's because the ghrelin's growling, always. And I mean, personally, I cannot go through the trouble of the surgery and the expense and with the factor of the complications that can happen with it, and then not get rid of that hunger issue that I have. I just thought, man, that is not my personal recipe that I want. There's a lot of people, though, that have had lap band that say, you know, hey, you aren't hungry. It really will affect you in a positive way and you wouldn't be hungry. Okay, that's great. I just don't trust it for me. I trust the VSG because it's getting rid of it permanently and it's literally cutting it off. So that part, the permanency of that was something that just sort of got rid of the worry for me. So that was how I came to that. You have YouTube videos that you need to watch. If you really like the science and the anatomy and the physiology of the stomach and what they're actually going to be doing, the actual process of the surgery itself, if you kind of dig that and you can get in and watch those, I encourage you to, because that's exactly what I've done. And let me tell you what, it's amazing how different the surgeons are. They're accomplishing basically the same thing, but there's these little things that I started noticing that varies between the different surgeons. There are surgeons that literally whip that thing out. They're fast. Sloppy fast, though. I don't like fast. I like the ones who they go in, they evaluate, all right, I'll give you some good examples here. Let's say this is the stomach. Let's say this is the spleen back here. You have the spleen and you also have the, what do you have back there? You have the spleen and the appendix. I don't know, what was it? The spleen. Listen to me. I've done all this research and I can't remember what's back there. Anyway, I'm ashamed. All right, so the stomach is not just this loosey-goosey thing in there. It's got a bunch of attachments. I mean, it attaches to things behind it. You know, there's fat and there's tissue and stuff in here, and it keeps that stomach in place there. All right. You have some surgeons who will come in and they will, they'll make the staple cut along there, and then they will come in and start to, separate the back of the stomach to take that piece off, like after the staple line has gone in. Then you'll have some who go in, they completely separate the stomach from anything behind there. Anything. They'll cauterize some vessels, and they'll get it completely to where it's just like a piece that they can do this with. Like, pretend this is the stomach. You got the esophagus and you got the intestine down here. And they completely detached it from everything back here, and it's movable. Okay? Those surgeons who do that, when they go in for their cut, before they actually fire, they'll turn that over and they'll make sure that the backside is nice and aligned, and that they're not, that it's not doing this in the back, or that they haven't grabbed some sort of, maybe a fat piece or something back there that they shouldn't have grabbed. They're going to look at that and go, okay, and it's fitting snugly, and they're going to bring it back around, and then they're going to fire. Okay, I love that. Absolutely love it. Then you have those that when they do the staple line, they'll make one staple cut, and then when they go in for the next one, it's like where the end of the first staple firing ends, and then where they begin the next one, sometimes they align those real nice and neat to where you have one staple line, and then the next staple line that comes in is just right there with it. But like this, to where it lines up like this. And then you have some who go in there where it just seems sloppy to me. Maybe it's no big deal in the world of surgery. Maybe it's not a big deal. But some of them come in there and they'll like do the next staple line, and it's like over it like this. And it's like, what? Why couldn't you get that lined up to where the staple line is just, you know, a little more aligned? So I see there are surgeons that go slow, separate things, line everything up real nice and neat. There's some that oversew the staple lines, some that don't. There are some that use a buttressing, what's called a buttressing material, like, let's say this is the staples. There's a material that goes inside the staples, and when they put that staple gun down and it staples, they take the gun away and it leaves that buttressing material there on the staple line, and it reinforces it. Okay, so there's some that do that, and then there's some that will do that plus the sewing, or they do that plus they might spray what's called a biological glue across the staple line. Once it's all cut, they may, got the buttressing material, and they may spray some biological glue across there, and it just looks like the nicest, neatest staple line you ever saw, and you're like, man, that's what I want mine to look like. Then you have some who they get done, and it just looks horrible. Okay, so that really helped me to formulate the questions that I will ask the surgeon that I choose. By the way, I've not chosen my surgeon yet. I want you guys to look at those videos, and then I want you to be aware of what a center of excellence is. A center of excellence, they have a certain number of cases that they've done at the center itself. So you may have 3 doctors at that center, okay, or 4. And that center of excellence has met certain criteria to get that designation. And that means that they have some follow-up programs. They have certain protocols, standard operating procedures and protocols put in place. They have a certain percentage of successful surgeries, low complication rates and things like that. So you want to look for that. Something that I learned, though, is there's also a designation known as a surgeon of excellence. So that's awesome. Really want you to look for those. There's a few here in the States. You'll find, if you'll just Google surgeon of excellence and then bariatric, one of the searching techniques that I've learned that really works well is if there's a certain phrase that you want to capture in your searches, put it in quotes. So I would put surgeon of excellence in quotes, and then outside the quotes put bariatric, and then that will bring up the entity that issues those designations, and you'll be able to look them up, look up the surgeon by name, or you can either do that, or it'll just give you the list of surgeons. I was very impressed that Dr. Alvarez in Mexico, he's the one that's down at Piedras Negras, down below Eagle Pass, Texas. He is a surgeon of excellence. He just got that a couple of years ago. I was so impressed by that. I've watched his website for quite a bit. He does a lot of good educational videos, and he's got some follow-up programs and stuff that are great. My mom, I had a complete cow when I told her I wanted to go to Mexico. Not that I wanted to, that I was considering it. And she was just like, I just can't support that. So I don't want my family to worry about me for things, and I can't control whether they do or not. I do know that sometimes that fear of unknowns is enough to be an aversion to certain things. So I'm trying to respect that. I know she's not trying to should on me. I call it getting should on. Sometimes people should on you. You should do this. You should not do that. We should never allow ourselves to be should on. So I hope y'all out here in YouTube world get some usage and get some mileage out of that. Sometimes it's a good way to break the ice with somebody who's trying to tell you what you should or shouldn't do. You can say, you just should on me. How dare you? And so it's fun, and it's a good way to talk in a positive way to people who really mean well, but sometimes they just need to be aware that what they're saying is a should on. Mexico has its drawbacks. I'm not a big lawsuit person. I don't like the thought of having to file a lawsuit on anyone, but at the end of the day, think about this. When we go to Mexico, we take a risk. By the way, I am a healthcare risk management and compliance person. That's what I do. I understand risk, okay? I understand standard of care. I understand going through standard operating procedures and protocols in order to lower your risk for your patients. I get that. And I know that the ones that go through those processes and they have all those things put together, they are the ones that are less likely to cause any patient any problem. I don't care if they're in Mexico or where they are. If they go through that and they're good standards, then they will be successful. And there are several Mexico doctors that have excellent statistics, and it's because of their skill, but it's also because of the team that they put together. The pre-op, the post-op, the plans, the standard operating procedures, the processes, all those are standard, and they are the way they are for a reason, to lower risk for themselves and for you. There are certain roadblocks, though, when it comes to the things that we can't control, because risk management does not mean zero risk. There's always a chance for risk. We're humans. This is medicine. This is, you know what? They practice medicine. Practice means that it's not perfect. Every doctor, every healthcare provider out here practices what they do. If it was perfect, we wouldn't even need insurance. So when we're talking about a surgeon outside of where my family could get some help if something were to happen to me, then there is just this question of whether I can do that or not. I mean, I'm not a big risk taker. I just by nature, by what I teach healthcare providers, is that I teach them to take as little risk as possible. So it just sort of goes against my particular psyche to take a whole bunch of risk. And to go to Mexico, the risk is not, the risk itself is not any more than, I guess, any surgeon in the U.S. as far as the chance for complications. But it's not more, but it's the same. So if I go to Mexico and I happen to be one of those people who's a recipient of an unfortunate event or something that either that incapacitates me, or I have some sort of an injury, or at worst if I die during it, well, what kind of recourse does my family have for helping to take care of some stuff? And if it's a Mexican doctor, they're not going to be able to do that. And the chances are just so remote that would be an issue. I get that. I don't begrudge anybody from going to Mexico. It just means that those are factors that I don't have a real tolerance for myself. So I give Mom a hard time, but I hear her. I'm not going to be able to go to Mexico. But I will say that those of you that are thinking about going to Mexico, Dr. Alvarez seems to really be a good one. The travel advisories and stuff to Mexico you can read. Depending on, if you try hard enough, you'll get something somewhere tell you that you shouldn't go to any of them. You know, so I mean, it just depends on how much you want to read and research it. There's some government travel things that you can read on that say, you know, here are the cities in Mexico that you shouldn't go to. Dr. Alvarez's office is adamant that they post those and they just never change. It's like a constant awareness thing on there that doesn't change even when there's no crime issues going on. I think they've got a system in place to where people are kept pretty safe, really safe. I don't believe they've had any issues. The girl that I have emailed back and forth with, she's just said there's not a problem. So I don't want to discourage those of you who have the tolerance of going to Mexico to get it done. I think that if you have that tolerance, that Dr. Alvarez would be a good one, just because he is a designated surgeon of excellence. And that's great. I'm so happy for him to have gotten that designation a couple of years ago. Now, what I've seen on YouTube also are different doctors who are willing to do some education online. Dr. Alvarez is one of them. But in the U.S., I found Dr. Cirangle, Cirangle, in San Francisco, California. He is one of the pioneers of the standalone VSG. He started them years ago. He teaches other surgeons. He's written briefs. He's, written papers and stuff on it. I've read them. His video online of the actual surgery is fantastic. He goes slow. His pace is wonderful. He uses the buttressing material. He lined everything. He separated the stomach, from the back, and he was able to look at the back and turn it over, and things like that. The alignment of the staples was just, it was really good. And he used a biological glue across there. He didn't stitch it. He didn't stitch the staple line. He went with the buttressing material and the glue. Just really appreciated his explanation of that as he was going through the surgery. It was one of those live surgery deals where he was able to record. And, some of you may say, oh, yeah, well, he was on his best behavior, I guess, when he was doing the video. Well, of course. I mean, wouldn't you? I would. I mean, I'd want things to go perfect if I'm going to video that and put it out on the world. So I think that that's an indication, though, of his standard, of what he does. He's had tremendous success over there. He has got some statistics on there that I appreciated seeing. By the way, with statistics, most of you need to understand that when a statistic is talked about online, they're generally talking about their success rate within days after the surgery. In other words, we're going to do this surgery, and then during the agreed monitoring time, which is generally 2 to 3 days with VSG, during that time period is when they're gathering data of whether there's leaks or not. So if you're getting data from a surgeon, ask where the data came from. Okay, is the data from 2 or 3 days after surgery? Okay, great. Could I have some data on their 3-month follow-ups? How many patients at their 3-month follow-up, or during that time period, had a leak? How many had a leak within a year? How many had or whatever? Maybe not a leak, because the thing's going to heal up by then. But what other kind of complications took place within a year? What took place in a 3-year? So the data doesn't go back too far. I think right now you can get 5 or 6 years of data on it, which is pretty decent. The best block of time for data is 10 years. That's what I'm learning. So we don't have that yet, but we have a pretty good chunk of it. So when you ask for data, know what you're asking for, because if they give you data, you need to know where it came from. So Dr. Serengel's had very good reviews. He's $17,000 to get it done there, and that's with a couple of days in the hospital, I think, and that's it. I mean, you're paying your flight there from Dallas. Not too bad. It's $500 round trip. So, I mean, if you're spending 17 grand, another 5,000 is not going to be that big a deal. And if you wanted to stay in San Francisco a couple of days after, just for good measure, and you wanted to stay in the hotel and, sit by the pool or something and just hang out so that you're close to his office for a few days, I think that's good to do that. I've actually watched a video of a girl who did that. She went to one of the resorts to have it done, and she decided to tack on another 4 or 5 days as a little leisure vacation afterward, because she felt more comfortable with her decision to go to this particular doctor at a resort if she was able to stay for several days afterward. That way, in case she had a complication of some sort, he'd be right then and there. So that's great. And so, San Francisco's the same thing. I'm in Dallas, that's San Francisco. So if I go there, I think it might be a good idea for me to stay a couple extra days. So I think by the time it's all said and done, probably $18,000 is probably what I would spend on him. And he'd be worth every penny. I have no doubt about it. There's there's a whole bunch of good surgeons out there, by the way. This is videos about my research about surgeons. So I found Dr. Kuhn, Joseph Kuhn, Kuhn. I actually found him on Health Grades. Health Grades is another good example of where you can get some information on these surgeons and look at some of the reviews. He had a whole bunch of reviews. He's been doing this for a long time. He's a product. He graduated from medical school back in the 80s. So he's had a lot of time to become the surgeon that he is. He's general surgeon, and then he went to specialize in abdominal surgery, and then now he's doing the bariatric. I think he also does just abdominal surgery. He's a general surgeon. So if people have to go in for hiatal hernia surgery or appendix removal stuff. That's going to be the type of surgeon that he is, but he's doing a lot of bariatric surgery, and he has provided a lot of educational videos that I have watched. I haven't seen an actual surgery video of his. That's the only thing I like to watch, the surgery. If I could watch a surgery of him, and I will ask for it, by the way. When it comes to your health and what makes you feel, what's going to help you to feel comfortable about the surgeon that you're using, ask the question. And if they give you attitude or something, oh, won't you be so glad you asked? Because then you're going to know something about that provider in that provider's office. If you get blown off or made to feel as if your question is a little ridiculous or a little stupid or whatever, oh, that's why you're asking. You're asking so that you can learn those things about people. So I will ask that question. I will ask Dr. Kuhn's office, can I get a video of your surgery? Is it on YouTube? Do you have it on any of your instructional videos? And if they say, no, we don't have one, that's an answer. Okay, so then I'll have to make a decision on, well, all right, then let's talk. So I will go in and do a one-on-one. I've got that in the works now. I'm going to go in and talk to Dr. Kuhn and have a one-on-one. And I'm going to make another video here in a minute on the 20 questions that I came up with that I'm going to ask. And I'll post my 20 questions maybe on the comments somewhere underneath the next video so that you can use them. You can tweak them, use them for what you want. They ended up being the questions that were important to me. All right, so I'm going to kill this video and we will